Ooh, ha 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 ha.
Look what I got today. How about that? Pretty sweet.
Do the taste test. Ooh, ha 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 ha. Oh, that's pretty good. I can definitely eat it. I don't know if you can eat it or not, but I can eat it. Texas. Got the Instant Pot Duo Nova a couple days ago, last week in fact, and I thought I would make a recording of cooking, Indian style cooking in the Instant Pot. I used it last week, or earlier this week. Today it's Thursday right now. I used it earlier this week and made some aloo gobi, and that turned out pretty good. Now I'm going to try to make God, what are those things called? I'm going to cook black-eyed peas. It's almost like I have to keep all the lights off to get a decent amount of light coverage on the camera. I'm gonna have to resituate the camera on that side, but I'm cooking on this side, so I don't know exactly how that's going to work out yet. It's my first time I'm recording in this manner, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, so I had to pull up the recipe, the Instant Pot cooking recipe on my phone. I'm using piping pot. Yep, piping pot curry. I've followed her recipes many times, and she's really good. So I thought I would make black-eyed peas following her recipe on the Instant Pot. Now, black-eyed peas in Hindi, they're called a bunch of different names. In some parts of the country, they're called lobia, Lobia. In other parts of the country, they're called Rongi, Rongi, and that's a name I'm familiar with, Rongi. Growing up in northern India, or at least from the northern Indian culture, we call it Rongi in that part of the country. So I'm going to be cooking Rongi today, and I don't know how it's going to work. I've got one camera there, so it's sort of recording me, but it's not really going to be able to do close-ups of the vegetables and the Instant Pot. So I'm going to try using two different cameras and see how it goes. So here I've got 4 small potatoes that I have chopped up. Just dice them up. And I'm going to use some virgin olive oil and put it into the Instant Pot. I've already got the oil in there. You can see the camper isn't very level, but that's how good we're going to be able to do it right now. It's too dark in here. I got to turn the lights on. So I think next time around I'm going to have to put the camera on that side so that the camera is not facing the light sources, the windows. So we'll have to see how that works out. But for now I'm going to leave it here, and I'm going to turn the lights on so that really bright. One of the challenges I've already figured out in this small camper is that there's not a lot of kitchen space, not a lot of kitchen counter space. It seems like it's a lot, and it really isn't. I need to add maybe some kind of an extension here that takes it maybe halfway between the end of this counter. I don't know how I'm going to get that. Okay. Yeah. So maybe like the end of this counter here up to like here, which is halfway to the bed. I've got the camera on the bed, which is half the way through the bed. I think if I can do that, it'll give me another, maybe another foot and a half of counter space, and I think that'll be really helpful. But for now, this is what I have. So what I'm going to end up using the spices, I don't think I have all the spices that the recipe calls for, but I'm going to use ground cumin. You want to use, I mean, I've got the ground cumin. You want to use the ungrounded cumin, the actual seeds. You want to use those. I'm going to be using turmeric, which in Hindi is called haldi. So I'm going to be using haldi. The ground cumin in Hindi is called jeera. So I'm going to be putting some of the jeera. The ginger, I don't know what it's called in Hindi. Ginger. And chili powder. Going to be trying that out as well. And of course salt, which I'll get out in a little bit. So 1 teaspoon of cumin seeds. The recipe calls for ½ tablespoon of ginger. I don't have the half spoon, so I'm going to use the full spoon. This is why you need to have the regular ginger, not the powder form. I forgot about garlic. I'm going to be using garlic as well. All of these I usually have in the solid form, not in the powder dry form. I usually have them in the solid form when I was in Bricks and Sticks, Sticks and Bricks, and I started carrying these, the powder form, because they're easier to store in the camper. So I've had them for a few months. I haven't done that much cooking, so they're still pretty much full. So I'm going to finish using these, or at least use them as much as I can, before I transition over to getting the solid forms of the spices. Ooh. I don't have everything here that I need in terms of cooking utensils and things like that. So I'm just using So the other thing I'm doing, the recipe calls for 1 cup of Rongi, 1 cup of the black-eyed peas. I'm trying to avoid cooking as frequently, so I'm going to cook in bulk, and so I'm using 2 cups of Rongi. So my recipe is pretty much everything is doubled. Instead of 2 tomatoes, I'm using 4 tomatoes. I am a little concerned about the steam coming right up here. During cooking, obviously the steam is coming up here. When I have to release the vent, I figured out a way to do that without causing steam to be coming onto the wood of the camper. And the way I do that is to use this microfiber cloth. So I put that over the vent when I release the vent, and that way the steam gets caught in the towel and not all the way up here. But I can already feel that the wood is getting, long term I'm not going to be able to do this. I can feel the wood is already damp, so I can see that. So I'm going to have to figure out another way to do this. I'm not sure if I should have doubled the recipe. I think it'll be okay, but I'm not quite sure. So the way you cook the Rongi is to put it in water for 4 hours. Just soak it in water, cold water, hot water, whatever. But make sure it's like fully immersed in water. That helps it cook a little bit faster. Use my second camera here. That's 4 cups of water, 4 cups of water and 4 tomatoes. That's what I've got there, and all the spices and the oil. This is where I feel the lack of space. There's not enough space for the counter. I want to eat one of the grains dropped on the counter. I want to eat it just like that. I always add the salt last. Calls for 1 teaspoon. 1 teaspoon, and this is 1 teaspoon, but since I'm doubling everything, I'm going to put 1.5 salt. I can always add salt later. I was going to put 2 teaspoons of salt. My mouth is already watering. And there's no way you can eat the peas right now. The peas are in there, the water's in there. Now I have to turn it on for 12 minutes and cook it. So what I've got now is the Instant Pot Duo Nova. Previously, I had the Instant Pot Duo. I just had the Instant Pot Duo, and the cool thing about the Nova, the Duo Nova, is that the vent and the sealant, not the sealant, the seal and the vent, they automatically close when you close the lid. Previously, you had to remember to close the lid, to close the seal and all of that. It was a manual process. It wasn't that hard to do. Once you do it a few times, you get used to it, but it is something that you had to remember to do. With the Duo Nova, it's just automatic. So here we're cooking it for 12 minutes on pressure cook. And that's really it. Everything is all set up. It'll take a few minutes. I think it takes like 4 or 5 minutes to, I should time it. It takes 4 or 5 minutes to build up the pressure before it actually starts the cooking process. So it's 12 minutes, but the 12 minutes timer hasn't started yet. If you've been using the Instant Pot, you know that it just needs to build pressure inside the pot before the timer turns on. All right, so now I'm going to clean everything up and just basically let the Instant Pot do its thing. If you think about how much time it took me to do this up to this point, I took out all the tomatoes, the 4 tomatoes, washed them, diced them up into small little pieces. That was the first step. The second step was to put the spices in the Instant Pot and just marinate them. Normally, if I would have had the solid spices, then you would have needed to marinate them. But since I had the powder form, I really didn't need to do that. Added the oil and the tomatoes, and I just used my spoon to mesh them in. Then I added all the spices, added the water. The black eyed peas were already soaked, so I added that. That's all I really had to do, because I have to look up the recipe, and because I'm recording, it takes a little bit longer for me to do all of this. But all of this probably shouldn't have taken more than 5 minutes otherwise. So 5 minutes of maybe prep time. 7 minutes of prep time, and then 4 or 5 minutes for the Instant Pot to pressurize, and then 12 minutes of cooking, and that's really it. So maybe 5 to 7 minutes of prep time, maybe 15 to 20 minutes of actual cooking, and that's all there's to it. So it's pretty simple. Alright, so now I'm going to clean everything up while the cooking takes place, and then I can go back to my laptop and watch some of you guys' YouTube videos. That's exactly what I'll be doing now. I was at the library. I'm trying to conserve my data. So last month I ran out of my data, so this time around I'm trying to conserve it a little bit more. So I went to the library and I downloaded your YouTube videos, and so I've got them on my laptop, so I'm going to start watching those in just a few minutes while the cooking takes place. Well, first I'm going to clean everything, and then I'm going to go watch the videos and let the Instant Pot do its magic. All right, we're almost done. I'm just going to let the pressure release naturally. That's what the recipe calls for. I waited 15 minutes for the vent to release itself, and it didn't. And I'm hungry, so I manually released it. Whoa, yeah. I don't know. It looks okay. I don't know. Maybe it's okay, maybe it's not. I feel it needs to be a little bit thicker. You'd have to add yogurt for that. But the recipe did not call for that. I don't know. I'll taste it right now and see. All right, so the cooking is done, and I'm going to do the taste test. Ooh, ha 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 ha. Oh, that's pretty good. I can definitely eat it. I don't know if you can eat it or not, but I can eat it. There's a difference in standard, you see. I can eat it just fine. I can eat my own cooking. I'm not very comfortable having other people eat my cooking. Let me back up. In the Instant Pot, it's a lot easier to get the recipe correct. It's just, for whatever reason, it's just a lot simpler. If you cook the food Indian style in pots and pans, I don't really have a good recipe to follow. So I'm usually just putting in all of the spices just by estimating what I think needs to go in there. And what do I know? So it's just whatever goes in there goes in there. And so when I'm cooking it on a pan, it's not really the greatest food. The sabji doesn't come out really, the vegetables don't always come out right. Some spice or the other is off a little bit. Sometimes there's too much masala, sometimes there's too little masala. Now I can eat that stuff because I have a very high tolerance for spices being off just a little bit. I'm not sure if you would have that tolerance to eat it, so I can eat it. I wouldn't necessarily present it to you to eat it. But in Instant Pot, it works out a lot better. And this is something I think you could probably eat. Ooh. Mm. Oh, that's good. It needs a little bit more salt. When I put in the salt, because I doubled everything in the recipe, I was supposed to put in 2 teaspoons of salt. I put in 1.5, because you can always add salt later. I think it needs that half a teaspoon of salt. But oh, the curry is really good. It is. I was thinking I may need to put yogurt. It's not thick enough, but it's actually just right. It comes out really well. So with a little bit of salt, I think it'll be perfect. Oh yeah, that's good. All right, I'm gonna take that phone off so I can take video of the of the Rongi and the black eyed peas in the Instant Pot. That's a really good curry. Not very thin, not too much water, and not really thick like if you add, yogurt or something like that, when it becomes really thick. This one is just right. Good. Ooh, yeah. Hot, but good. Not too bad at all. I can eat that without a problem. Looks good. I was able to pull out 2 containers full after eating a whole bowl. So, yeah, that worked out pretty good. All cleaned up. All right, bye for now. I'll be back.